I have dreams about us. I just want it to stop.
Hey y'all. Say hello. Hello. Yeah, right here. Hi. Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. So today I owe you guys an explanation as to where the heck I've been and to introduce you to this little baby girl. So obviously we had a little girl. Her name is Hermione Amelia Faye, and she was born October 6th of 2019 at 3:54 in the morning, emergency C-section. So what actually happened is I didn't feel any movement. She wasn't moving at all the day before I had her, and so I gave it the rest of the day because she was one that liked to move at night. So I of course waited it out and ate my dinner, and nothing was waking her up. So I'd even gotten like a shake, and I expected that to wake her up because it normally would. However, it of course didn't work. So I was at work. I had decided to go ahead and go in. I work nights, so I went ahead and went into work, and I told my boss, I was like, hey, I may need to go to the hospital later because I think that there's something wrong, or I'm going to end up having this baby today. So I texted her about an hour into my shift, and the other girl got there about 2 hours after I texted her. So by about 11:30, she got there, and no, it was before then. It was about 11:15. So she got there, and I was to the hospital, which was about an hour away from where I was working, within 45 minutes. Because at that point I was having contractions, and I was super worried because I hadn't felt her move. So when I got to the hospital, I went into the emergency room, and they went ahead and took me to labor and delivery. Now, given this was at midnight, so of course, you know, I had to go in through the emergency room. I couldn't just go straight to labor and delivery because the doors were already closed for the evening. So I went there, and they had me on the monitor, and her heart rate kept decelerating. So they decided to do a biophysio profile, or physical profile, I guess is what it's called. And they discovered that she wasn't practicing breathing. Basically, she failed everything on that test. So the only thing that she passed on that test was the amount of fluid around her. So amniotic fluid was fine. And by the way, I was gestational diabetic. So for the third time around, because she's our fourth child. And so I had just had a BPP and an NST the day before, a non-stress test, which is the bands they put around your belly, to monitor contractions and baby's movements and stuff. So I just have it the day before. Now, given it had taken a little bit longer to get her movements and her breathing and such the day before, she still passed it. So we didn't know anything was wrong at that point. But looking back on it, I think that's when this happened. So, of course, because she failed her physical profile, they decided to go ahead and do an emergency C-section because she wasn't doing great. So when the doctor opened me up, I literally just heard silence in the room, and the only thing that I heard was the doctor gasping. And she said, "Oh my God, well, that's why." And she apologized to me the next day after she had said that. So what ended up happening is that her umbilical cord actually wrapped around her neck almost 5 times. So it was 4.75, and she was basically dying in there. And you wouldn't be able to tell now. She's perfectly healthy. But when she came out, she was gray, and she pinked up right away as soon as they unraveled the cord and cut her away. But she was on oxygen support for the first 24 hours. And when she would have her crying spells, she would also have breathing spells, where she would stop breathing. She would forget to breathe. So what the doctor's best guess on that is that when she would stop breathing, when her cord was wrapped around her neck, it was probably wrapped so tight that it crushed her trachea. So basically, after her 5-day stay in the NICU, we just had to keep a good watch on her, because they were scared that she would continue to have the spells. So after her last spell, they kept her for 48 hours after that. And then they said that I could come spend the night with her in the NICU. They actually had us a room, and I stayed the night with her, and I just had to watch her breathing and basically just look over her to make sure that she was going to be okay to come home. And she, of course, was. She got released the Friday after she was born, which was, I want to say, I have to look at the calendar. I want to say it was like October 13th. I know, October 11th. So October 11th, she got to end up coming home. And she's been okay ever since. Now, after that, as far as me and my C-section, the C-section went normal. I got released, actually. The C-section was on Sunday. They're supposed to keep you for 72 hours. They released me at 48 hours because I was doing okay. They needed the room. So I said, fine. I went home. Friday, after I brought her home, Friday after I brought her home, I had gone and gotten my grandma from the airport because she lives in Mexico. So I did bring my grandmother here, and we moved into a house, and our master bedroom is on the 2nd story. So I'm, of course, already climbing stairs 5 days postpartum. I don't think you're really supposed to do that, but I did. Anyway, so I was picking up a blanket that had fallen on the floor, and I bent down and I heard ripping. My husband actually is pulling in the driveway. So I heard ripping, and I thought maybe the blanket had ripped a little bit, but it wasn't the blanket. So I had walked all the way across the room. I was putting something away on the other side of the room, and all of a sudden I looked down and I noticed these little brown spots on the carpet. So I told my grandma, I said, well, did Clementine spill chocolate milk maybe? And my grandma, she's a retired RN. So she actually, she was like, oh my God, where are you bleeding from? Where are you bleeding from? Your incision's bleeding. And she threw me down on the bed, took a look at it. I was bleeding profusely, and my husband actually ended up taking me to the emergency room where they did nothing. And my doctor was pissed about it because they should have at least packed it with gauze. I mean, they could have left it open, but they should have packed it to prevent the bacteria from building up. So the following Tuesday, so that happened on Friday, the following Tuesday, I had to follow up with my doctor, and she actually ended up sewing it up because it was pretty open. So she cut the rest of my stitch and then sewed me back up, and just left about a little bitty gap, maybe about a ½ inch open, and to allow room for drainage in case anything needed to come out. Anyways, so we were interrupted here. Where was I? Oh, so the doctor actually swabbed my incision, and then later on, about, I want to say 2 or 3 days later, I got those results, and I had bacteria in there, and so my doctor had actually already put me on antibiotics as a preventative measure. So I'm lucky to be standing here healthy today. And that's all really for my birth story. Well, I hope you guys enjoy this little update or birth story, and I'll see you guys later.